Ilara moved through the crowded hall, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The golden chandeliers above cast a soft, shimmering light on the polished marble floor, but all she could see was him, her ex-husband, Lord Darien. He leaned casually against a column, his eyes sharp and cold, scanning the crowd as if searching only for her. She had come to this gathering hoping to remain invisible, to slip through the court unnoticed. But Darien had a way of finding her, of making every place feel like a trap. Ilara's hands trembled slightly as she clutched the hem of her flowing gown. Every laugh, every chatter around her felt like it was part of a cruel game, and she was the unwilling pawn. Suddenly, he stepped forward, moving through the guests with a predator's grace. Ilara's stomach twisted. She tried to sidestep, to disappear behind clusters of nobles, but Darien was always faster. She could feel the heat of his gaze, the sharpness of his words unspoken but still heavy in the air. "Trying to run from me, Ilara?" His voice was smooth, almost gentle, but laced with a venom that made her skin crawl. Ilara's heart raced. She couldn't stay, not here. Not with him so close. She needed an escape, a way out before the room became a prison. In her panic, her eyes darted around the hall. And then she saw him, a stranger tall and broad-shouldered, standing near the edge of the crowd. There was something different about him, something that made her feel safer in an instant even though she had never met him before. His dark cloak swept the floor and his eyes, sharp, piercing yet calm, seemed to see her fear without judgment. Without thinking, Ilara reached out and grabbed his hand. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The stranger's eyes widened for the briefest moment, but then he nodded once, firmly. With a gentle but strong pull, he guided her toward the hall's side door. The world outside the chandelier-lit hall was a blur of torches and shadows. The cool night air hit her face, and for the first time that evening, Ilara felt a spark of relief. Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. The man's lips curved slightly, a hint of a smile, but he did not release her hand. "Someone who will keep you safe," he said simply. Ilara glanced back. Darien had noticed her absence. His eyes flared with anger, and he began to push through the crowd. Panic rose like fire in her chest. They needed to move faster. The stranger led her through narrow alleyways behind the castle, the sound of their footsteps echoing softly against stone walls. The forest beyond the city walls loomed ahead, dark and mysterious, but it was better than being trapped inside with her ex. As they reached the edge of the trees, a faint sound stopped them. A whisper of movement behind them, Darien's voice calling her name with an angry, commanding tone. "Stay behind me," the stranger said. His voice was calm, but it carried a weight that made her feel protected. Suddenly, Darien appeared from the shadows, his expression twisted with rage. "Ilara," he shouted. "You cannot escape me." Ilara's breath caught. He was faster than she expected. She stumbled back, her hand slipping from the stranger's grip for just a moment. But then he reached out, grabbing her hand again. His grip was firm, warm, unyielding. A strange energy pulsed around him. Ilara blinked, unsure if she had imagined it. Darien stumbled back as if pushed by an invisible force, his eyes wide with shock. The stranger didn't release her hand, but his other hand rose slightly, fingers outstretched. A ripple of power radiated from him, like a gust of wind that rolled through the forest, scattering leaves and sending Darien sprawling backward. Ilara gasped. She had never seen anything like it. What are you?" she whispered. The man's gaze softened, but it held an intensity that made her chest tighten. "Someone who protects what he must," he said, his voice low and steady. They moved deeper into the forest, the shadows of the trees stretching long and dark in the moonlight. The night was alive with sounds, rustling leaves, distant howls, the gentle hum of magic that seemed to hang in the air around them. Ilara felt both terrified and exhilarated. Every step she took beside him felt like stepping into a new, unknown world. As they walked, she finally allowed herself a long look at him. His face was strong, with sharp features that seemed carved by some ancient hand. His eyes were dark, almost black, yet they held a warmth that contrasted with the sheer power she could sense in him. She shivered, not from cold, but from a strange mixture of fear and fascination. "Why, help me?" she asked after a long pause. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he glanced around as if listening to the forest itself. Because you have been wronged, he said finally, and because your life matters. Alara's breath caught at the intensity in his eyes. There was something regal about him, something commanding, yet it wasn't arrogance, it was a quiet authority. The kind that made people follow not out of fear, but respect. What are you? She asked again, her curiosity overcoming her fear. For a brief moment he hesitated. Then he said, I am Kale, and I am the Alpha King. Alara froze. The words hung in the air like a spell. A king here? In this forest? The pieces didn't fit, yet the truth in his voice was undeniable. His power, his calm control. The way Darian had fallen back under his unseen force, it all made sense now. Her mind raced. She had read stories, heard whispers of kings who were more than human, rulers who commanded both loyalty and fear, but she had never believed them, never imagined she would meet one, or be saved by one. Kale walked silently beside her, each step measured and confident. The forest seemed to bow around him, shadows curling away as if in respect. Alara tried to match her pace to his, but it felt impossible. She was still trembling, her heart beating wildly, her thoughts spinning. Where are we going? She asked finally. To a place where you will be safe, Kyle said. But we must be cautious. Your ex, he is not the only danger you face. There are others who would see harm come to you simply because of who you are. And because of who I am. Ilara's eyes widened. She had no idea what he meant, but the weight in his words made her shiver. She realized she was now caught in something far larger than a personal quarrel. She was in a world of power and magic. A world where kings and their secrets ruled, and she was just a mortal caught in the storm. Kyle, she said softly, almost a plea, I don't understand any of this. He looked at her, his expression unreadable, yet there was a flicker of something. Curiosity? Concerned in his gaze. You will in time, he said. For now, trust me. That is all you can do. They walked on deeper into the forest. The moonlight barely pierced the thick canopy above, but the path ahead seemed to glow faintly under Kale's presence, as if the very air knew him and yielded. Alara's fear slowly began to mix with awe, and something else, a feeling she hadn't allowed herself in years, stirred in her chest. Hope. But even as relief began to settle, a shadow moved among the trees. Alara froze, and Kale's hand tightened slightly around hers. Stay close, he murmured, his voice a low rumble that seemed to blend with the wind. A soft growl echoed from the darkness, and Alara's heart leapt. She had no idea what it was, but Kale's calm stance made her believe they could face it. Whatever was coming, she realized she would not face it alone. And yet, she couldn't shake the thought that this was only the beginning. Her life, the world she had known, had just shifted in ways she could never have imagined. She had grabbed the hand of a stranger to escape her ex-husband, but that hand belonged to someone who was not just a stranger. He was a king, a man of power, mystery, and danger. The forest seemed to whisper around them, carrying the echoes of the past and the promise of something unknown. Alara clutched Kale's hand a little tighter, feeling the warmth, the strength, and the unspoken promise of protection. She did not yet know what awaited her in the shadows of this new world. But one thing was certain. She could not go back. And perhaps she did not want to. As they pressed forward into the dark heart of the forest, the moonlight caught on something in Kale's eyes, an unreadable depth, a flicker of power, and a quiet acknowledgement that this night, this encounter, would change both their lives forever. And in the distance a faint cry carried on the wind, a warning that danger was not far behind. Alara's pulse quickened. She realized with a mixture of fear and anticipation that nothing would ever be the same again. Alara's footsteps crunched softly against the forest floor as Kale led her deeper into the woods. The shadows grew longer and the trees thickened, their twisted branches forming shapes that seemed almost alive in the dim moonlight. Despite the darkness, she felt safe beside him, though an unease lingered in the pit of her stomach. This was no ordinary forest. Where are we going? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Kale's gaze was fixed ahead, sharp and calculating. To my kingdom, he said. The words carried weight like the name of a place that existed more in legend than reality. It is hidden. Few mortals ever see it. Ilara's mind whirled. She had known legends of kings with hidden realms, places where magic breathed and the impossible became real. She had never thought she would witness one firsthand, much less be taken into it by its ruler. They passed through a clearing, and suddenly the air shifted. A soft glow emanated from the trees themselves, casting a pale silver light on their path. Alara's eyes widened. The forest seemed alive, not with creatures or shadows, but with an energy that hummed beneath the ground, flowing through the air like a quiet heartbeat. "Kale. This place," she whispered. "It feels different." He glanced at her, a flicker of a smile brushing his lips. "It is alive, and it knows you are here." His voice was calm, but there was a power in it that made the words feel like a warning. Alara's heart raced. She was a stranger to this world, and yet, walking beside Kale, she felt a strange pull, as if the forest itself was acknowledging her presence. The fear that had gripped her earlier softened into wonder, though she could not shake the knowledge that danger was never far. After what felt like hours, they reached the edge of a cliff. Below stretched a valley bathed in silver moonlight. In the center, a city rose like a vision from a dream. Towers spiraling toward the sky, walls shimmering with enchantments, and streets lined with trees that glowed faintly. This was Kale's kingdom, and it was unlike anything Alara had ever seen. Kale extended his hand to her. "Welcome," he said simply. Alara stared, speechless. The beauty of the city was breathtaking, but it carried an undercurrent of power that made her pulse quicken. "It's incredible," she murmured. He nodded, his eyes scanning the valley below. "It is not safe yet. Many here do not welcome strangers, and your presence could draw unwanted attention. That is why we must move carefully." They descended a hidden path winding along the cliffside until they reached a gate carved from black stone. Strange symbols glowed faintly along its surface, pulsing in rhythm with the soft hum of magic in the air. Kale placed a hand on the gate and it swung open silently, revealing a courtyard bathed in a pale, otherworldly light. Inside, the castle rose like a dark jewel. Towers spiraled upward and banners fluttered, though there was no wind. The air was thick with history and magic, and Alara could feel it pressing against her, heavy and alive. As they walked through the courtyard, figures emerged from the shadows. Tall guards clad in dark armor, their faces unreadable beneath their helms, watched her carefully. Some whispered to each other in a language she did not understand, casting cautious glances her way. Kale's presence alone seemed to command respect. The guards straightened, their tension easing only slightly as he approached. One stepped forward, bowing low. "Your Majesty," the man said, his voice respectful but wary. Kale nodded in acknowledgement but did not release Alara's hand. "Stay close," he murmured to her. Inside the castle, the corridors were wide and echoing, lined with tapestries depicting battles and ancient kings. The air smelled faintly of candle smoke and something sweet, like dried flowers mixed with the earth itself. Alara walked beside Kale, her senses alive with wonder and unease. "Why? Why me?" she asked softly, breaking the silence. "Why did you save me?" Kale's expression softened, though his eyes remained sharp. "Because you were in danger. And because your courage, and it is rare. You did not scream or beg. You acted. That matters." Alara's cheeks flushed. She had acted out of fear, yes, but also out of instinct. And now, here in this strange magical kingdom, she could not deny the strange connection she felt to this man who had saved her. They reached a room at the heart of the castle, its walls lined with books and artifacts, soft candlelight flickering against the stone. Kale motioned for her to sit, though she remained standing, unsure what was expected of her. "You will be safe here," Kale said, "but you must understand this is not your world. There are rules. You cannot speak freely of this place, and you must trust me completely." Alara swallowed hard. The weight of the situation pressed on her. She was far from home, in a realm ruled by a man of unimaginable power, and yet she felt a sense of relief she had not known in years. I will try," she said finally. Kyle studied her, his gaze intense. "It is not enough to try. You must decide, and soon." Before she could ask what he meant, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed down the corridor. A messenger arrived, breathless, bowing low before Kale. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice urgent. "There is news. Your ex-husband has allied with the sorcerer of the eastern marshes. They march toward the kingdom. They intend to seize the woman you saved and claim her as part of their plot." Alara's stomach dropped. She had thought her troubles were over, that escaping Darien was enough. But now she realized she had entered a world where danger had many forms, and it had found her here. in the heart of this mystical kingdom. Kale's eyes darkened. He turned to her, his hand brushing against hers, grounding her. They seek to harm you. I will not allow it, but you must understand. The coming days will test both of us. You will see power and danger you cannot yet imagine. Ilara nodded, her hands tightening in her lap. Fear mixed with determination, and for the first time she felt a spark of courage she did not know she possessed. She had survived Darien. She could survive this. The castle seemed to grow quiet around them, as if listening. Shadows flickered along the walls and distant voices murmured in the halls. Ilara realized that this kingdom, beautiful and dangerous, was alive in ways she could barely comprehend. Every corner held secrets, every shadow carried a warning. Kale moved closer, his presence commanding and protective. Rest now, he said. But do not be fooled, this peace is temporary. Soon the storm will reach our gates and you will be at the heart of it. Ilara's heart raced. She wanted to ask questions, to know what was coming. But Kale's gaze held her in a silence that made words impossible. She felt both safe and exposed, as if the walls of the room could not protect her from the destiny that awaited. As night deepened, she could hear the faint hum of magic in the air, the soft whispers of the castle itself, and though she was terrified, a part of her felt alive in a way she had never known. The fear and uncertainty mingled with awe, creating a strange, intoxicating sense of wonder. Suddenly, a shadow moved outside the window. Ilara's breath caught and she instinctively stepped back, but Kale's hand was on hers again, steadying her. It is only the night, he said, his voice calm but edged with warning. But they are coming. You must be ready. Ilara's pulse quickened. She had entered a world of power and mystery, a world where kings and sorcerers wielded forces beyond mortal understanding. She was no longer just a woman fleeing her past. She was part of something far larger, something that would challenge her courage, her heart, and her very sense of self. And as Kale's gaze met hers, intense and unwavering, she realized the truth. She was not merely being protected. She was being drawn into a destiny that would bind her to him, in ways both terrifying and extraordinary. The night stretched on, silent, but charged with unseen forces. Ilara knew that the coming days would test everything she believed, everything she feared, and everything she longed for. And deep inside, a spark of anticipation flickered, a recognition that her life, as she had known it, was gone forever. Outside, the wind carried a distant sound, faint but unmistakable, the approach of enemies. And in that sound, Ilara felt the first tremors of a story that was only just beginning, a story of power, of danger, and of a bond that could defy even the darkest of fates. The dawn broke over the shadowed kingdom, painting the sky in streaks of violet and gold. Ilara stood on the balcony of Kale's castle, her fingers curling around the cold stone railing. The forest stretched below, dense and mysterious, and in its depths she knew danger awaited. The night had been restless, filled with the whispers of magic and the hum of power that Kale commanded. She could still feel the echo of it in the air, wrapping around her like an invisible cloak. Kyle appeared behind her, silent as a shadow, his presence commanding and calm. He rested a hand on the railing beside hers, and she felt his strength like a shield. They are coming, he said softly, eyes fixed on the horizon. Your ex and the sorcerer. They will not give up easily. Ilara turned to him, determination flickering in her chest. I'm ready, she said. Her voice was steady now, stronger than it had been when she first grabbed his hand in the hall. I won't hide anymore. Kyle studied her, the faintest glimmer of surprise in his eyes. Few mortals possess such courage. He had expected fear, hesitation, and doubt, but instead she stood beside him with a quiet, unwavering resolve. Then we face them, he said, voice low and commanding. Together. The castle gates opened, revealing the approaching army. Ilara's ex-husband Darien rode at the front, a cruel smile on his face, flanked by dark figures that shimmered with sorcery. The air around them crackled with malevolent energy. The forest seemed to recoil at their presence, the trees bowing as if in fear. Kale stepped forward, his cloak billowing like a shadow against the morning light. He raised a hand, and the air itself seemed to bend to his will. Energy pulsed outward in a gentle wave, a subtle warning that the Alpha King had arrived. The guards behind him straightened, their armor gleaming, weapons ready. Ilara stood beside him, heart racing. She could feel the pulse of magic, the weight of history, and the power that Kale commanded. Yet in that moment she also realized that she had her own courage to offer. Fear would not rule her today. Darian sneered. "You think you can hide her from me?" he shouted, voice carrying over the clearing. "This woman belongs to me. I will take her, and you. You will fall." Cale's gaze met his, calm and unyielding. "She belongs to no one but herself," he said. His voice carried over the army like thunder, and even the trees seemed to listen. "And I will not let you harm her." The sorcerer raised his hands, dark energy swirling around him like a storm. The ground trembled beneath their feet. But Cale moved first, stepping forward with unmatched grace. His hand glowed faintly, and waves of power radiated outward, pushing back the darkness that surrounded Darian and the sorcerer. Ilara watched, awe and fear mingling in her chest. She had never seen anything like this. Magic, power, and sheer authority collided in a display that was both terrifying and beautiful. But Cale's eyes were always on her, and in that gaze she found courage. "Stay close," he whispered. The first clash came quickly. The sorcerer unleashed a bolt of dark energy, striking the ground near Ilara. She jumped back instinctively, but Cale's hand was on hers in an instant, steadying her. Together they moved forward, weaving between the flashes of magic and steel. Ilara realized that she could not be a bystander. She searched her surroundings and found a fallen branch, sturdy and thick. Though simple in her hands, it became a symbol of defiance. She swung it toward the approaching shadows, using her courage and instinct to fend them off. To her surprise, the movement caused a ripple in the magical energy around her, Kyle's power responding to her bravery. Kyle noticed and allowed the faintest smile. "You are stronger than you know," he said, voice a low rumble. "Do not doubt yourself." The battle intensified. Darian charged forward, reckless and fueled by anger. Cale intercepted him, their clash sending sparks of energy and metal into the air. Ilara's pulse quickened as she watched the Alpha King move with grace, strength, and precision. And yet, amidst the chaos, she felt something else. A growing connection, a bond that neither danger nor distance could sever. Cale's power surged as he raised his hand toward the sorcerer. Light and shadow collided in a brilliant display, illuminating the valley like a storm of stars. The sorcerer's magic faltered under the Alpha King's authority, and Darian was thrown back, stumbling and defeated by the sheer force of Cale's will. Ilara felt a mixture of relief and awe. She had survived, and Cale had protected her, but she also knew that their victory was not just about power. It was about trust, courage, and the bond that had formed between them in the shadows of the forest and the halls of the hidden kingdom. As the dust settled and the dark figures retreated, Ilara approached Kyle. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes met his with a strength that surprised even herself. We did it," she whispered. Cale looked at her, his expression softening. "Yes," he said, "but this is only the beginning. You have shown courage beyond measure, and I have something I must admit." Ilara tilted her head, curiosity and fear mingling. "What is it?" He stepped closer, the intensity in his gaze unwavering yet gentle. "I have ruled this kingdom with power, with strength and with caution. But I have never known what it means to trust someone completely, to care for someone with my whole being. Until you." Ilara's heart ached with emotion. She had feared love, had doubted herself for so long, but now standing beside Cale, she felt a warmth she had not known in years. I trust you," she said softly. "And I care for you too." Kyle reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. His touch was gentle yet filled with authority and warmth. "Then we face the future together," he said. "No matter what comes, we will stand side by side." The wind stirred around them, carrying the faint hum of magic and the whispers of the forest. Ilara felt the pulse of the kingdom, the heartbeat of a world alive with power, and she knew that she had found her place, not just as a visitor, but as someone who belonged. Darian's threat had been real, but it had revealed something more important. Ilara's own strength, the depth of her courage, and the bond she now shared with Cale. They had faced danger and emerged stronger, and in doing so, had begun a story that would echo through the hidden kingdom for years to come. As the sun rose fully, casting golden light over the valley, Cale and Ilara stood together on the balcony of the castle. The battle was over, but the promise of the future stretched endlessly before them. The kingdom was safe, but more importantly, their hearts had found each other amidst the shadows and trials. Cale knelt before her, his dark eyes lifting to meet hers. "Elara," he said, voice low and filled with emotion. "I am your king. But you are my heart. Will you stay in my world forever?" Elara's breath caught. The question carried weight, promise, and a challenge. She realized that everything had led to this moment. Fear, danger, courage, and trust. And in that instant she knew the answer. "Yes," she whispered, her voice steady, filled with certainty. "I will stay." Kyle rose, taking her hands in his. The sun reflected off the towers of the castle, casting long shadows that danced like spirits in the morning light. They stood together, two souls bound by courage, trust, and a love forged in the shadows of danger. Around them, the kingdom seemed to exhale, the air alive with magic and life. The battle had ended, but the story of Kale and Elara was only beginning. A story of love, power, and destiny, set against a world of shadows and light. Fear and courage, darkness and hope. Elara looked at Kale, and he looked at her, and in that shared gaze, they knew that together, they could face anything. The Alpha King and the woman who had grabbed his hand to escape her past had found not only safety, but something far greater, a bond unbreakable, a love eternal, and a destiny intertwined. And as the morning sun bathed the kingdom in golden light, Elara realized that for the first time in her life she was truly home.